Yesterday's session we have seen how many ways we can develop web services using Java. How many ways we can develop web service using Java. In today's session we are going to talk about web services architecture. Very important. Web services architecture. Right, please concentrate. If you have any question, please hold your questions with you. At the end I will clarify all your questions. Right, please don't message anything in the chat box. Please don't disturb the session in the middle by asking unrelated questions. So if you have any questions related to the today's class, please wait till my explanation is completed. At the end I'm going to take all your questions and I will clarify them. Alright, let's get started. In the last session we discussed in how many ways we can develop web services using Java, right? So quickly recall, so how many ways we can develop web services in Java? We can develop web services in two ways. We can develop web services in two ways using Java. What are those two ways? We can develop web services in two ways using Java. So those are, one is by using JAX RPC API and the second one is by using JAX WS API. JAX RPC API is available to develop a web service which is provided by Sun Microsystem. Second one, JAX WS API is available to develop a web service that is also provided by Sun Microsystem. So total there are two ways available to develop web services using Java programming language. JAX RPC stands for Java API for XML Remote Procedural Call. JAX RPC stands for Java API for XML Remote Procedural Call. So as it is a API, we can't directly do the development with the API because APIs contains set of interfaces and abstract classes. Somebody has to implement them, then only we can use. For JAX RPC API, there are several implementations available. Like below. There are several implementations available. Right, now what are those implementations? One is Sun implementation. Sun Microsystem only provided the API and Sun only provided implementation. Apache organization also provided a implementation which is called Apache Access implementation. IBM also provided a implementation, that is IBM WebSphere implementation. Oracle also provided implementation which is Oracle WebLogic implementation. So if you want to develop a web service by using JAX RPC, you need to use this JAX RPC API along with one implementation. Then only you can start web service development by using Java. Right. JAX RPC API follows rules and guidelines provided by BP 1.0 specification. That means JAX RPC API following a specification. The name of the specification is BP 1.0. Who provided this specification? BP 1.0 specification provided by WSI organization, that is Web Services Interoperability, which is given by WS-I, non-profitable organization to support for interoperability in the applications development. Right. Now, this is the support given by Sun Microsystem to develop web services by using Java. JAX RPC API is the first API given by Sun Microsystem to support for web services development. Now, as BP 1.0 is successful, as BP 1.0 is successful in the market, as BP 1.0 is successful in market, WSI released BP 1.1 specification, BP 1.1 specification with rules and guidelines, with some better rules and guidelines. They released 1.1 specification. Sun Microsystem released JAX WS API. Sun Microsystem released JAX WS API to support BP 1.1 specification. Now, JAX WS stands for Java API for XML web services. JAX WS is the second API given by Sun Microsystem to develop web services using Java. JAX WS API is the second API given by Sun Microsystem to develop web services using Java. What was the first API? JAX RPC is the first API, JAX WS is the second API, and this is the last API given by Sun Microsystem to develop web services using Java. JAX WS stands for Java API for XML web services. For JAX WS API, we have several implementations. They are first one is reference implementation. Which is RI. Second one is Apache Axis 2 implementation and Apache CXF implementation. Similarly, Oracle WebLogic implementation, IBM WebSphere implementation, etc. Like that, there are several implementations are available for JAX WS. So if you want to develop a web service in the Java, two options we are having. Now, if we develop a web service by using JAX RPC or JAX WS, that is called as a web service. That web service is called as SOAP-based web service. If we develop a web service using JAX RPC or JAX WS, then that web service is called as SOAP-based web service. That web service is called as SOAP-based web services. SOAP-based web services are called as big web services. SOAP web services are called as big web services. SOAP web services are called as big web services. So these are the points that we discussed in the last session. Right, now let's understand what is web services architecture. How web services are working in the industry. Web services architecture. Concentrate. This is very important to develop distributed applications. Same concept, almost same concept we are going to see in the RESTful services architecture also. Same concept we are going to see in the microservices architecture also. This is the base architecture for distributed application, which is very important. So everybody please concentrate while I am explaining web services architecture. At the end, I am going to address all your questions. I don't leave any question pending. All questions I am going to take at the end of the session. So if you ask questions in the middle, then class will be disturbed, class will be distracted. So that is the reason. First I will complete my explanation, then I will take all your questions. Let's concentrate. Shall we start now? We are going to understand web services architecture. In web services, first before going to start the web services architecture, first of all, what is web service? We discussed how many ways we can develop a web service. There are two ways to develop a web service in the Java. In the .NET, multiple ways will be available. Similarly, in the Python, multiple ways will be available. In the Java, we are having two ways to develop web services. So first, what is this web service? Web service is a distributed technology. Web service is a distributed technology which is used to develop distributed applications with interoperability. So what is web service? What is web service? Web service is a distributed technology which is used to develop distributed applications with interoperability. What is distributed application? If one application is communicating with another application, then that is called as distributed application. Then what is interoperability? What is interoperability? In the last session we discussed what is interoperability. Irrespective of the platform and irrespective of the programming language, if two applications are communicating, then those applications are called as interoperable applications. That means Java application should be able to communicate with Python application. Python application should be able to communicate with .NET based application. .NET based application should be able to communicate with Java application. So if your applications are communicating like this, irrespective of the platform, irrespective of the programming language, then those applications are called as interoperability applications or interoperable applications. Does this interoperability support available from day one onwards, or does this support is not available from day one onwards? In the software industry, distributed application support is also not available from the day one onwards. Interoperability is next later point of time. First, distributed applications also not available. As the demands are increasing, first Corba came into market, then RMI came into market, then EJB came into market, but they are failed to provide interoperability. So to provide for support for the interoperability, WSI organization came forward and they provided specifications. So web service is the first and foremost technology which is supported for interoperability in the applications development. So what is interoperability? So my project is running in the Windows machine which is developed on Java. Another project is running in the Linux machine which is developed by using .NET. If my Java application which is running in the Windows able to communicate with the .NET application which is running in the Linux, then these applications are called as interoperable applications. So interoperability is very important concept when we are developing distributed applications. So with this I hope you got what is web service. Web service is a distributed technology which is used to develop distributed applications with interoperability. Now, how these web services are running in the market? What is the architecture of a web service? Now, let's understand web services architecture carefully. In the world of web services, we will have two parties. One is called as provider, another one is called as consumer. Whenever we talk about the web services, we need to talk about the two parties. One is called provider, another one is called as consumer. So who is provider? And who is consumer? who is provider and who is consumer. Right. Now, what is the role of the provider? What is the role of the consumer? That we need to understand. If you understand who is provider and who is consumer, then you will understand how web services are working in the real world. Right? Provider means the application which is providing business services to other applications is called as provider application. Any application which is providing business services to other applications is called as provider application. Then who is consumer? The application which is accessing business services from other applications is called as consumer application. Now, so in the world of web services we will have two parties. One is called as a provider, other one is called as a consumer. Who is provider? Who is consumer? The application which is providing business services to other applications is called as provider application. Then what is consumer? So who is consumer? The application which is accessing business services from other applications is called as consumer application. Now let us take one example for understanding. Right. Now, so here, as I told you earlier, IBM developed one application which is connecting with the satellites. IBM developed one web application which is connecting with satellites, which is used to get the weather forecasting information. To connect with the satellites, IBM developed one device. They manufactured one device which is used to connect with the satellites. Right. Now, to capture weather information from this device, IBM developed one web application. IBM developed one web application. This web application will connect with the device. That device will connect with the satellite to get the data. These things are developed by IBM. Now assume that these projects are developed by IBM company. Right. Now, so in the IBM web application, they have a logic to communicate with the device. The device knows how to communicate with the satellite. Satellite will give some response to the device, and device will give response back to the IBM web application. So in this web application, IBM has written some logic to capture weather forecast information based on the zip codes. So based on your locale, then they will find out weather information. For the next 1 week, how weather condition will be available, they can capture that data from the satellite. Now, what IBM told is, guys, anybody who want to display weather forecast information in your applications, you no need to redevelop the complete logic again. I already developed that logic. I will provide my logic as a service for you. Now here I am developing my application. I am developing one website. For my project. So for my company, I am developing one project which is Ashok IT. I developed a website for this. In this website, I want to display weather information. In this project, I want to display weather information. So I am not interested to develop that logic to communicate with the satellite. First of all, I don't know that. I don't know how to communicate with the satellite. If I want to develop that logic to communicate with the satellite, I need to do lot of research and development, which needs lot of time, which needs lot of money. But I want to display weather information by next week. So that is the requirement. My customers are asking to display weather forecast information in my website. In order to write that logic For me, it will take 1 year or 2 years of time, but still there is no guarantee will I be able to communicate with the satellite from the Java program or not. Able to follow this? I am not good in that satellite programming, how to communicate with the satellite. Then I have a option. IBM already developed it by spending 3 years of time for research and development. Now their solution is working as expected. My requirement is also same. Whatever I need to do in my project, that is already developed in one project by the IBM. Now I want to do a business deal with the IBM. Hey IBM, I have a requirement to display weather information in my website, but I don't have a logic for that. Could you please provide your logic for me so that I can display weather information in my project? Then IBM is agreed for that. IBM told that, okay Ashok, so for every request you give me some amount of money, then I will give you weather forecasting information. Now tell me, who is providing the service? Who is accessing the service? IBM is providing the service, Ashok IT is consuming the service. So here this Ashok IT application will communicate with the IBM application to get the weather forecasting information by sending a zip code. I will talk to the IBM by sending a zip code. Then IBM project will send me some response. Then IBM project is going to send me some response. So here Ashok IT is accessing services from the IBM. So Ashok IT project is called as a consumer project. IBM project is providing the service. So IBM project is called as a provider project. So in the world of the web services, two parties will be available. One is called as a provider, another one is called as a consumer. Who is provider? The application which is providing business services to other application is called as provider application. In this scenario, which application is providing, we are trying to understand what is provider and what is consumer. So when it comes to the world of the web services, two actors will be available. One is called as provider, another one is called as consumer. So who is provider, who is consumer? The application which is providing business services to other applications is called as a provider application. Then who is consumer? What is consumer? The application which is accessing business services from other applications is called as consumer application. Now let's look at here. IBM company developed a project. IBM company developed a project which is used to get the weather forecast information from the satellites. Right now, they spend lot of time, they spend lot of money to do that logic. Right, they are successful in that. Happily, they are able to capture the weather forecast information from the satellite. Now, fine. So here I am developing one project for my institute, which is called Ashok IT. In this project, I want to display weather forecasting information also. That is my requirement. That is my business requirement. So if I want to display weather forecasting information, I also should write the complex business logic which is done by the IBM. So now I thought it. Why I need to spend the 3 years again, which is already done by the IBM? Instead of wasting my time, instead of wasting my money, I will do business partnership with the IBM. As IBM already developed it, let us access the logic from the IBM project instead of redeveloping the logic again. Instead of redeveloping the logic again, let us talk to IBM application to get the weather forecasting information. For that, Ashok IT project has to do business partnership with the IBM company. Ashok IT company has to do business partnership with the IBM company. Now, here Ashok IT project wants weather forecasting information. IBM project has to provide weather forecasting information. So, who is playing the provider role? Who is playing the consumer role? IBM is providing the services to the Ashok IT. If IBM is providing services to the Ashok IT, IBM application is called as provider application. Ashok IT application accessing services from the IBM. So Ashok IT is called as a consumer application. So are you able to understand? In the web services, two applications will be involved. One application will play the role of the provider, one application will play the role of the consumer. Provider application means who is providing services to others. Consumer application means who is accessing services from the others. So in the web services, two parties will be available. One is called as a provider, another one is called as a consumer. Now let's start this. In the world of the web services, always development will begin from the provider. In the world of the web services, always development will be starting from the provider application. Why? Because if the provider is not available, then how can we develop a consumer? If the provider is not available, then how can we develop a consumer? Somebody should be ready to provide the service, then only I can access the service. If nobody is providing the service to me, then how can I access that service? It's meaningless. Right? So in the world of the web services, always development will begin from the provider side. Always the development will begin from the provider side. In the world of the web services, always development will begin from provider side. In the world of the web services, always development will begin from provider side. Provider development can be done in two ways. Provider development can be done in two ways. One is called as contract first approach. Second one is called as contract first approach. Second one is called as contract last approach. One is called as contract first approach, another one is called as contract last approach. Simple, guys. So in the JDBC, how many ways we can execute a query? In the JDBC, how many ways we can execute a query? We can execute a query by using a statement. We can execute a query by using prepared statement also. The result is same. We can execute a query by using a statement and we can execute a query by using prepared statement also. Right? The result will be same. Same query I can execute by using a statement interface or same query I can execute by using a prepared statement interface. Similarly, in the web services, provider can be developed in two ways. One is called as contract first approach. Second one is called as contract last approach. What is contract? What is contract? In the web services, contract means WSDL. Contract means WSDL. WSDL stands for Web Services Description Language. WSDL stands for Web Services Description Language. WSDL stands for Web Services Description Language. WSDL is a special XML. WSDL is a special XML which describes how provider providing services to consumers. How provider is providing services to consumers. Contract means WSDL. WSDL stands for Web Services Description Language. WSDL is a special XML which describes how provider is providing business services to consumers. How provider is providing business services to consumers. Why? Because my provider I am developing from my company. Assume that my provider I am developing from my company. Now, in your company, you want to develop a consumer. How can you access my provider? You should know what is the URL of the provider. You should know what operations are doing by the provider. You should know what is input for the provider. You should know what is the output of the provider. So, provider details you should know. Then only you can access the provider. Are you able to follow me? So I am developing one web application. In that I am developing a business service for you. So I am from one company, you are from other company. How can you access my web service now? How you can access my project? If you know my project URL, if you know my project, what is the method available in my project, if you know what is my method parameter, if you know what is my method return type, then only you can access my web service. Are you able to follow me? So in one company, I am developing a provider. I am developing a provider. So how many ways I can develop a provider? In two ways I can develop a provider. What are those two ways? One is called as contract first approach. Another one is called as contract last approach. What is this contract? Contract means WSDL. WSDL stands for Web Services Description Language. WSDL is a XML. It describes how provider is providing business services to consumers. How provider is providing business services to consumer. So now here contract first approach means WSDL file will be created first, then development will be done, then development will be started. First I will create a WSDL. Based on the WSDL I will write the code. That is called as contract first approach. So what is contract last approach? Contract last approach means first we will develop the service, then we will prepare WSDL for that. So what is the difference between contract first approach and contract last approach? In contract first approach, we will create the WSDL first, then we will create the service. In the contract last approach, we will create the service first, then we will generate the WSDL for that. So how many ways we can develop a provider? Provider can be developed in two ways. One is called contract first approach, second one is called contract last approach. So in the world of the web services, always the development will start from provider side. Provider side means provider should be developed first. How many ways we can develop the provider? Two ways. One is contract first approach, another one is contract last approach. What is contract first approach? First to create the WSDL, then develop a service. What is contract last approach? First to develop a service, then generate a WSDL. Sir, which one is recommended? It's up to you. If you are very good in the WSDL, recommended to develop the WSDL first, then develop a service based on your WSDL. If you don't know WSDL properly, then develop a service, then write a WSDL for that. So in the industry, both approaches will be used according to the situation. People will use both approaches. Are you able to follow this? Right. So what is that contract? Contract is a WSDL. What will be there in the WSDL? What is the URL of the provider? What methods are available in the provider? They are called as operations in the web services terminology. What is the input for the provider? What is the output for the provider? How to access the provider? What is the URL of the provider? Everything will be documented about the provider in the WSDL file. That WSDL is called as a XML. Let me show you some sample XMLs that we created in the web services batch. So let me go to my web services workspace now. In the contract first approach here, I have a WSDL. So WSDL file is a XML. So let me open this with the browser. What is happening? 1 second. So I'm going to open this WSDL file. Internet Explorer, fine. Okay. So just I want to give you an overview how that WSDL is going to look like. So WSDL stands for web services description language. Like this, WSDL file is going to look like. So in the WSDL file, several sections will be available. Those sections will describe the provider. Those sections will describe the provider. Here address location is available, which will talk the URL of the provider. Here binding section will be available, which protocol we need to use to access the provider. That information will be available in the binding section. Here port type will be available. Port type will talk about what operations are there in the provider. Operation nothing but one method in the provider. One operation nothing but one method in the provider. So now here messages will be available. What input we need to send, what output we are going to get, that will be described in the messages section. What is the format of the input, what is the format of the output, that will be described in the types section. So there are 5 sections available in the WSDL. Types section, message section, port type section, binding section, service section. Types section will talk about format of the input, in which format we need to send the input, what are the things we need to send in the input, what are the things we are getting in the output, that will be described in the types section. Message section, which all inputs you need to send as one message, which output you are getting as one message, will be described in the message section. Next, port type. Port type will tell you what are the operations in the provider. Operation nothing but a method. For the method, what is the input, what is the output, that will be described in the port type section. Binding section will talk about protocols, which protocol we need to use to access the provider. Now what is the URL of the provider, what is the address of the provider, that will be available in the service section. Now first, if you prepare the WSDL like this, based on this WSDL you can develop a web service. Then that is called as contract first approach. Right. Suppose you are not good with WSDL, you don't know WSDL properly, then you will first develop a service. From the service you will generate the WSDL. Then that is called as contract last approach. But being a web services developer, you should have very good knowledge related to the WSDL. Then only you can become a web services developer. Then only you will be called as a web services developer. So when you go for the SOAP, these WSDL files are going to play the very important role. Without WSDL, there is no web service. Without WSDL, there is no web service. Blindly you have to believe that statement. If you don't know WSDL, that means you don't know SOAP based web services. Are you able to follow this? Right. So this class is meant for RESTful services. So I am not going to concentrate much on the WSDL files. If you want to know much about the WSDL, SOAP based web services, in my YouTube I uploaded 3 videos related to SOAP based web services. You can watch those videos so that you will understand how to develop a SOAP web service. Right. But here I am giving you just architecture of a web service. Right. Provider. So now assume that provider application is developed. Either by using contract first approach or contract last approach, provider application development is completed, WSDL file is also ready. Once a WSDL file is ready, this provider will share that WSDL file to the consumer. Provider will share WSDL file to the consumer. How they will share that WSDL file? For that, there is one registry which is called as UDDI. Universal Discovery Description Integration. That is the meaning of the UDDI. UDDI stands for Universal Discovery Description Integration. Now, once provider development is completed, this provider will place the WSDL file in the UDDI. That is called publishing the WSDL. That is called as publishing the WSDL file. Provider will publish WSDL to UDDI. Then what this person has to do, this person nothing but consumer. What this consumer has to do, this consumer has to discover the WSDL and he has to download the WSDL. This consumer has to download the WSDL. Why? If I have the WSDL, then I will understand URL of the provider, operations of the provider, input for the operation, output for the operation, everything about the provider I will understand based on the WSDL. So as a consumer, if I want to start my consumer development, WSDL file is the input for me. If I don't have a WSDL, then I cannot develop my consumer. because I am trying to access the project which is developed by somebody. I am trying to access the logic which is developed by somebody in the some other project. So you assume that you developed a project in the IBM company. Now I want to access your project logic in my project from my company. So how can I access? If I want to access your logic, I need to know some details about you. I need to know some details about you. Where are you? Who are you? What data I need to send you? What data you will send me? If I can know those details, then only I can access your logic. Then only I can access your logic. Are you able to follow this? Right. So once provider development is completed, provider will share WSDL file to the consumer. So earlier people used to work with UDDI registry to share the WSDL. So theoretically, UDDI is required for the web services development, but practically UDDI is not required because provider can share the WSDL through email also. Provider can share the WSDL through SharePoint also. Nowadays in the web services, we can generate the WSDL by using URL also. You can generate the WSDL file by using URL also. That is called dynamic WSDL generation URL. If you know the provider URL, with the provider URL, we can generate the WSDL file in the browser. So practically, UDDI registries are not required for the consumers and providers. Now assume that you are provider, I am a consumer. First you will complete your development either by using contract first approach or by using contract last approach. You will have a WSDL. You will send that WSDL to me through email. Then fine, my task is start. My project is going to start because I need only WSDL from you. If I have that WSDL, then I can start my consumer development because WSDL will describe about you. WSDL is going to provide all the details about you. With those details, I can start my consumer development. Right. Once consumer development is started, consumer will send a request to the provider. Consumer will send a request to the provider. Provider will receive the request, will process that request and will send the response to the consumer. Provider will send a request to the consumer will send a request to the provider will process that request and will send the response to the consumer. This is called request and this is called response. Now tell me, who will send a request and who will send the response? Consumer will send the request, provider will send the response. Consumer will send a request and provider will send the response. Now assume that this provider application is developed by using Python. Provider application is developed by using Python. Consumer application is developed by using Java. Now, can my Java application communicate with the Python application? That is the purpose of going for web services. So, if my Java application is communicating with the Python application, then these applications are called as interoperable applications. How to develop these interoperable applications? By using web services. What is a web service? Web service is a distributed technology which is used to develop distributed applications with interoperability. What is interoperability? The applications which are communicating with each other irrespective of the platform and irrespective of the programming language, they are called as distributed applications with interoperability. Are you able to follow this? Right. So now in the world of the web services, how many actors are there? Two actors are available. One is called as a provider, another one is called as a consumer. What is provider? The application which is providing services to other applications is called as provider. How many ways we can develop the provider? In two ways we can develop the provider. One is called as contract first approach, another one is called as contract last approach. What is that contract? Contract is a WSDL. What is WSDL? WSDL stands for Web Services Description Language, which will provide details of the provider. So once the provider development is completed, provider will publish the WSDL file to the UDDI. UDDI stands for Universal Discovery Description Integration, where the WSDL files will be stored. So theoretically UDDI is required in the web services, but practically that is not required. People are not using UDDI in the market. Because directly provider can share the WSDL through email, or he can share through SharePoint, or consumer can generate the WSDL by using dynamic WSDL generation URL. So I told you that one application I will develop by using SOAP. Then at that time I will show you what is WSDL, how to generate the WSDL files. Right. Once WSDL file is available for the consumer, then consumer can start the development. Right. Consumer development also can be done in two ways. Right. Once provider development is completed, provider will share WSDL file to consumer. Right. Here through email they can share, through SharePoint they can share, through repository they can share, through UDDI they can share, or consumer can generate that by using dynamic WSDL generation URL also. Note, practically UDDIs are not required. UDDI is not required, and in the industry people also not using that UDDI. So my provider can share me the URL, that WSDL file through email, or he can share me through repository, or he can share me through SharePoint, or I can generate that WSDL if my provider gives the URL. Right. Now, once consumer got the WSDL, file, consumer development can start. Once we got the WSDL file, we can start consumer development. Consumer can be developed in below ways. One is called as stub-based consumer. Second one is called as dynamic proxy consumer. One is called as stub-based consumer. Second one is called as dynamic proxy consumer. That means for the given WSDL file, we will create some stub classes. Those classes are used to send the request to the provider. So that is a stub-based consumer. Based on the WSDL, if you create some Java classes, then that is called as stub-based consumer. Some people will not create the stub-based consumer. They will directly frame the request in the runtime and they will send the request to the provider. That is called as dynamic proxy consumer. Proxy classes will be created in the runtime to send a request. That is called dynamic proxy consumer. So in two ways we can develop consumer for the web service. One is stub-based consumer, another one is dynamic proxy consumer, and DI method is also available. Invocation interface mechanism is also available to develop a consumer when you go for RPC API. Right, stub-based consumer or dynamic proxy consumer can develop. What is input for the consumer development? WSDL file is input for the consumer development. WSDL file is the input for consumer development. Once consumer development is completed, consumer will send request to provider. Provider will process consumer request. And will send response to consumer. So who is sending a request in the web services? Always consumer will send the request. Provider will process that request and provider will send response to the consumer. Consumer will send a request to the provider will process that request and provider will send response back to consumer. Now here consumer will send a empty request or consumer will send some data in the request. Come on, consumer will send an empty request or consumer will send some data in the request. Consumer will send the request with the data. Now, can consumer send the data in the form of object by using serialization, can consumer send a data in the form of object? If consumer send the object, provider may not understand, because consumer will send a Java object, provider is developed by using Python. So consumer should not send the request in the form of objects. Consumer should not send the data in the form of objects. Why? Because consumer and provider may not be developed by using same programming language. Here I am taking provider application as a Python application, consumer application I am taking as a Java application. So if consumer send the Java object to the provider by using serialization, that Python cannot understand what is Java object. If Python cannot understand Java object, that Python application cannot process the request sent by the Java, then interoperability is failed. What is the intention of going for web service? To achieve the interoperability. That means whatever the data that consumer is sending, that the data should be understood by the provider. Whatever the response provider is sending, that should be understood by the consumer. Then only we can say these two applications are able to communicate. Then only we can say these two applications are interoperable applications. Are you able to follow this? Whatever the data that consumer is sending in the request should be understood by the provider. Whatever the data that provider is sending should be understood by the consumer. Now, tell me something. Our Prime Minister Narendra Modi is there. When Narendra Modi comes to Telangana or Andhra Pradesh, Narendra Modi will speak in Hindi. Our Telugu people cannot understand Hindi. That means, can a Telugu person directly communicate with the Narendra Modi in the public meeting? Not possible, because Narendra Modi cannot understand Telugu. This Telugu person cannot understand Hindi. These two people cannot communicate. Same problem. Earlier, when Manmohan Singh was the Prime Minister, Sonia Gandhi used to conduct some meetings here. When Sonia Gandhi comes to Andhra Pradesh, she will speak in Hindi or English. But Telugu people will not understand that Hindi or English. They want the speech in the Telugu. But Sonia Gandhi cannot speak in Telugu. Or Narendra Modi cannot speak in Telugu. Are you able to understand? So, now assume that I am one person. There is one person in the class who knows Bhojpuri. That person will ask a question in the Bhojpuri. Can I understand that? Can I reply to that person? I can't reply because I don't know Bhojpuri. That person don't know Telugu. We can't communicate with each other. If you ask me a question in the English, I will answer your question. I will answer your question in the English, because you will understand English. I will understand English. If we both talk in English, then we will be communicate with each other. Now in our classroom also, people are there from different states. For every state, different mother tongue is available. But we all are able to talk to each other daily in the class. The reason is the English. We are using English as the medium to communicate. So whatever the web service architecture I am explaining, same architecture if I explain in Telugu, 90% of the people will not understand. Are you able to follow this? So when two people are communicating, common language is very important. You know English, I know English. English is our common language to deliver the class and to understand the class. So whenever you are joining in the class in the Ashok IT, you assume that this trainer will teach the class in the English. And whenever I am taking your admission, I assume that this person will ask the questions in the English. So as we are having that understanding, you joined in my class and I am taking a class for you, because that English is working as a medium for us. I am talking in English, you will talk in English. Are you able to follow this? You will send a question to me in the English. I will provide answer to you in the English. So we can communicate. Now let's apply same concept in the web service. Java application is there, Python application is there. Java application will send one request to the Python in the form of Java object. Can Python understand the Java object? Python cannot understand the Java object. If a Python cannot understand the Java object, this application cannot process the request of the consumer. Then interoperability is failed. So here consumer and provider will not talk in the form of objects. So they have to talk in the common language. So if consumer is sending some data, provider should understand. If a provider is sending some data, consumer should understand. So that's where XML comes into picture. That's where XML comes into picture. Consumer will send the request with the XML data, provider will read that XML data. Provider will send the response in the XML format, consumer will read the response in the XML format, because XML is platform independent and XML is language independent. Java language can understand the XML structure, Python also can understand the XML. .NET can understand the XML, iOS can understand the XML, Android can understand the XML. So that's why XML is the de facto standard to exchange the data between the consumer and provider. Who told this? WSI told that. We are following a specification. WSI provided the rules and guidelines how to develop the applications with interoperability. Then that excuse me, that WSI told that consumer should send the data to the provider in the XML, provider should send the response to the consumer in the XML. So consumer is developed in Java, provider is developed in Python, there is no problem. Java will read the XML, Python will read the XML. So that's why we are able to achieve interoperability. XML is the reason to achieve the interoperability here, because XML is the platform independent, XML is language independent. XML is the medium we are going to use to exchange the data between the consumer and provider. What is that XML? That XML is called as a SOAP XML. Consumer will prepare the request data in the form of one XML. That XML is called as a SOAP XML. So consumer will send the data to the provider in the SOAP XML, provider will send the response to the consumer again in the form of SOAP XML. SOAP XML, why we need to use SOAP XML, sir? Why can't I use a text file? Why can't I use a Excel file? Why can't I use a PDF file? They are platform independent. Now they are not platform independent. They are platform dependent. SOAP XML is platform independent. And who told that to use SOAP XML? WSI told that. Who is WSI? That is the organization who supported for our interoperability. Now, Java application will send a request to the Python application in the form of SOAP XML. Python can understand the SOAP XML. Python will process that request. Python will send the response to the Java application in the form of SOAP XML. Java can understand the SOAP XML. Then problem is solved. These two applications are communicating with each other by using SOAP XML as a mediator. SOAP XML is called as transporter. From consumer, data will go to the provider in the SOAP. From the provider, data will come to the consumer in the SOAP. SOAP is called as a transporter. SOAP is called as a transporter. So are you able to follow this? What is this SOAP? SOAP is a format of representing the data. SOAP is a format of representing the data. Are you able to follow this? So this is the high level architecture of a web service. So whenever you are going for web services, these are terminologies you need to remember: provider, consumer, WSDL, SOAP. Provider means the application which is providing business services to other application is called as a provider. Always the development will start from the provider. Provider can be developed in two ways. One is contract first approach, another one is contract last approach. Whatever the approach they used, they will share the WSDL. What is that WSDL? Web Services Description Language. That WSDL will explain how to access the provider. That WSDL will be kept in the UDDI theoretically, but practically UDDI is not required. So what is the input to start the consumer development? WSDL file is the input to start the consumer development. Once we have the WSDL, then we can start the consumer. How many ways we can start the consumer development? Two ways. One is stub-based consumer, another one is dynamic proxy consumer. So in the industry, recommended approach is the stub-based consumer because it is easy to develop. Right. Now, once the consumer development is completed, consumer will send a request to the provider. Always the request will send from consumer to provider. In which format? Is in the object format No, consumer will send the request to the provider in the SOAP XML format. What is the SOAP XML? That is the de facto standard to exchange the data between the provider application and consumer application. Who decided that we have to use only SOAP? That is decided by BP 1.0 specification and BP 1.1 specification. So there are some rules that we need to follow while working with the web services. Right, consumer will prepare the data in the form of SOAP XML to the provider. Provider will take that SOAP XML data and will process that request, then will send the response back into the consumer in the form of SOAP XML. Now, assume that my application want to get the weather information from the IBM application. My application will prepare a SOAP XML with the zip code and will send to the provider. Then IBM will get the weather information from the satellite, will prepare the data in the form of XML, will send to my application. I can understand the XML and provider also can understand the XML. So we can communicate with each other. This is called web services architecture. So very important. So if you don't understand this architecture, you can't understand the RESTful services and you can't understand the microservices, because those are also used to develop a distributed application. Whenever you go for distributed application, these components will be available. For the SOAP, WSDL and SOAP XML will be available. These concepts will not be there when you go for REST, different format. In the REST, we will have a JSON. REST will support for XML as well as JSON, but mostly we will use JSON in the RESTful services. A REST API can be called as a microservice. So all the future classes from today are dependent on today's class. That's why I told this is very important to understand this architecture. Tomorrow in the company, you may be part of a provider application development or you may be part of a consumer application development. Maybe your project is providing a service to some other project. Maybe your project is providing a service to some other project, or maybe your project is accessing a service from other project. Sometimes my project providing service to someone and my project is accessing service from someone. So I will play both roles. Are you able to follow this? So you should know both provider development as well as consumer development, then only you will be called as a web services developer. Nowadays in the industry, we are developing microservices. If you want to become a microservices developer, you should know both provider development and consumer development. Microservice will play the both roles. Microservice will play the both roles. So we will understand more about that. So architecture is not yet completed, guys. Just 60 to 70% of explanation is completed. Remaining 30% we need to understand. That we will discuss in the tomorrow's session. Thank you for joining.